Hello everyone, I am Akash and in this video I am going to make you comfortable with Flexbox. So let's get started. So Flexbox is a new layout module that has been introduced with CSS3. So now before getting started, let's get some basics out of the way. So if you open browser and if you search for Flexbox, and if you go into the images and then scroll down, and if you open up this image, okay, so here first of all, if you consider this flex container as a rectangular container and the flex dash items as any HTML elements. So in Flexbox there are two axes. The first one is the main axis and the second is the cross axis. The main axis is a horizontal axis that is from left to right, and the cross axis is a vertical axis that goes from top to bottom, and the same can be applied for the items. And now let's get started with the Flexbox. So here I have this index.html page created, and in this I have this div elements. So first of all I have this main div element that is with the class parent, and then after I have these four children elements. So let me show you the output for this. Okay, so this is the output. So I have these boxes with 1, 2 and 3 and 4 numbers on these. So now let's see the CSS for this. So I have the CSS file linked here, as you can see. So let's go on to that file. So if you want to write these CSS, then you can pause the video. And so this is the CSS property for this parent div, and these are the CSS properties for all the child divisions. Okay, so now let's get started. So first of all, as you can see here, that we have the elements aligned in the horizontal fashion from the left to right. So let me just comment this. So as you can see, originally the elements go from top to bottom in a vertical fashion, but as soon as we apply this, then they flow from left to right in horizontal fashion. So as you can see here, I have this flex value applied onto this display property, and this display property is in this parent class. So parent class is applied here on this division, and all the child classes are within this parent div. So whatever the properties that I'm going to show you, we are going to write them in this parent class. So as you can see, first of all, to get started with the Flexbox, we have to write this flex value in this display property. And next up, now if you want these elements to flow in the column fashion, in the vertical fashion, then you have to just set the flex direction as column, and all the elements are going to align in the vertical fashion, will go from top to bottom. And if you want these elements to flow from reverse, so if you want this 4 numbered box on top and then 3 and then 2 and 1, so you can do that by just writing the reverse. So they are going to flow reverse, and the same goes for the row. So in row reverse, as you can see here, they go from 4, 3, 2, 1, and also they are going to float on the right hand side. And if we just write the row, then as you can see, they are going to flow on the left hand side. So this is the use of the flex direction property. And now as you can see here, if I get this window down, then the elements are getting their sizes smaller instead of just going down and maintaining their size. So if you want to do that, and if you want to maintain the size of all the elements, the size of these boxes as it is, then there is a property that is flex wrap. And here by default the flex wrap is no wrap, that is they are not going to go down. So if you want them to flow down as soon as the size of the window is smaller, then they are going to flow onto another line. And you have another value for this flex property, that is wrap reverse. So this is going to work exactly reverse of what the wrap value did, that is the elements are going to flow upwards instead of going down. So as you can see here, they are going to go up. So this is the use of the flex wrap property. Okay, now there is another property, that is flex flow. So flex flow is nothing but a combination of flex direction and flex wrap. So you can use both those properties here in this single property. So here you have to specify first the flex direction, that is row, and then flex wrap. So let's specify as wrap, save it, and let's see. So as you can see here, it's working. And now instead of row, I'm going to write column, and they are flowing in the column fashion. And in the column, if you use this flex wrap, then if you get this window smaller, then the elements should flow in sideways. But as you can see here, I have this window downwards, but they are not flowing sideways. So why this is happening, let me show you that. So you just have to write the height as 100 VH, and now as you can see, they are flowing sideways. So if I get this window down, then all the elements are going to flow sideways. Now let me just write a border property here with 10 pixels, solid, and the color black. Okay, so this is how you can use this. And now the next property that we are going to see here is justify content. So justify content, and the values here for those are center. So if you want the content to be justified in the center of the screen, then you can do that using this. So as you can see here, all the boxes are in the center of this window, and if you want all the boxes on the right end, then you just have to specify the flex end, and all the boxes are going to float on the right side. And if you write the flex start, then it is just going to show you the default, that is all the elements are going to start from the left side. And then if you want spacing between all these boxes, then you can do that using space between. So now as you can see, all the boxes have some space in between, and as you can see, the first box and the last box doesn't have any space. So if you want space there also, then you can use space dash around, and you'll have the space here also. But as you can see here, the spacing is not even. So for this first and the last box, the spacing is not even as compared to all this in the middle. So if you want them to be evenly spaced, then you just have to write space evenly. And as you can see, the spacing in between all these four boxes is equal. So this is how you can use the justify content property. So as you saw, with using the justify content, the elements are being aligned in the center. But what if you want them to be aligned in center vertically also. So these are aligning center horizontally. So to align them vertically, then there is a property that is align items, and if you set it center here as well, then as you can see now the elements are totally in the center, in the middle of the window. So vertically also they are in the middle, and horizontally also the elements are in the middle. So with this align dash items property you can do that. So this justify content property works with the main axis, as I told you in the start of the video, that is the horizontal axis, and the align items property works with the cross axis, that is from top to bottom. So if you want to align the items from top to bottom in the center, then you have to use this, and if you want to align the items in center horizontally, then you have to use this justify content property. So now instead of center, you can also use the flex start, which is going to start from the top, and the flex end, which is going to get all the elements in the bottom of the screen. And then there is stretch. So what this stretch is going to do is, it is going to stretch the height of all the elements and it is going to make them equal to the height of the window. But as you can see here that it is not working. Now why it's not working is because we have set the height property of all the children's by default. So if we comment out this, so now as you can see here, the first item's height is now stretched out all the way to the bottom. So this is how the stretch value works with this align items property. Now let me get it back. And now there is another one, that is the baseline. So now let me show you what this baseline will do. So for that I'm going to change the font size in this to 20 pixels, and then I'm going to change the font size for this fourth child as to 80. So now as you can see, the items are aligned now based on these contents, that is the numbers that I have specified here, and the font size of this 2 is smaller as compared to this, but all these numbers are aligned in the same straight baseline. So this is how the baseline works. So it is going to take these numbers as their baseline, and so it is going to align all the boxes based on this. Okay, now the next property is align content. So don't get confused with the align items and align content. So let me just show you what and where you can use this align content. So now let me set this align content property to center, and as you can see here, even if I refresh, then nothing's happening. So this align content doesn't work when you have just a single line of elements. So I just have this one single line of elements of boxes that goes from 1 to 4. But if you want the content to be aligned in center, then align item works with that. But this align content works only when you have multiple lines of content and not just a single line. So now let me get the size of this window down, and let me also specify the flex wrap as wrap. Okay, so as you can see here that now the elements are in the center of the screen. So what you have to do is, if you want this to work, you have to set the flex wrap property to wrap, and then if you specify the center, then elements are going to get in the center. And if you want them to, let's say, go to the end, then you have to specify the flex end, and if you specify the flex start, then they are going to start from the top. Okay, so now if you want some space in between these elements, as you can see there is no spacing, then you can provide space using the space around property. So as you can see here, now we have some space on top, on the bottom also, and you can also specify space between. So these elements going to start from the top, and as soon as we get the size down, then they are just going to go at the end of the screen. So this is how you can use this align content property, and all the properties that are specified, like the align content and the align item, you can use them with the column direction as well. So now we are done with the properties that we can define in the parent class. Now there are some properties which you can use in the child class as well. So now let's see those. Okay, so now if you want these elements to be ordered in different way, like if you want the fourth element first, or if you want the third element first and the first element third, then you can do that using a property that is order, and this property you have to specify in the child classes and not in the parent class. So let's specify the order property. Okay, now as you can see here, I have specified the orders for all these child classes. So the ordering goes from 1 to 4, and the output for this is the original one which we were getting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this first box on the third position and this third one on the first position. So here I'm going to write 3, and here I'm going to write 1. So as you can see here, I have this first box on the third position and this on the first, and I can do this same for these two boxes also. So I'm going to write 4, and here I'm going to write 2. So these two boxes are also swapped. So this is how you can change the ordering of the elements that you have using this order property. Okay, so now I have changed the justify content to flex start. So now all the contents are starting from the left hand side, and now as you can see here, we have this gap. Now what if we don't want this gap and we want all these elements to fill up this gap? So for that we have a property that is flex grow. Okay, so I'm going to specify the flex grow 1 for all these children's. So as you can see here, now there is no more gap, and as you can see, as I get this window down, then all these three boxes are maintaining the same size. So this is how you can fill the extra gap if you have using the flex grow. And if you want any element to have larger width than all the other elements, then what you have to do is you just have to specify a greater number for the flex grow for that element. Okay, so now let's see. So as you can see here, the width for this, the third box, is greater than all these. Now if I assign even greater, then as you can see, the width for this is greater than this 1, 2 and 4 box. So this is how you can use the flex grow, and you can fill in the extra gap or space that you have in your layout. Okay, now then there is a property that is flex shrink. So what that does is, so with the flex shrink property, you can specify how much shrinking an element can handle when it is needed. So if I specify the flex grow phi for all these three childs. So I have specified the flex grow as phi for the 2, 3 and 4th box, and for this child 1, that is the first box, I have the flex grow 1, and here now I am going to specify the flex shrink as 10. So now first of all I'm going to show you what happens without applying this flex shrink. So I'm going to get this window down, and as you can see here, when I get this down, then all the elements are sharing the same width here. So what if we want this first box to shrink even more than that? So for that we have this shrink property, and I have applied it. So these three have the same flex grow, but this doesn't. And if I get this window down, then as you can see here, all these three are still having the same width, but this first box is shrinking. So this is how you can specify the shrink, the maximum shrink that you want for a particular element. So this is the flex shrink property. Okay, so now as you can see, all the boxes have the same size. Now what if you want to set a base size for the element? So you can do that using the flex base, and let me give 150 pixels here. So now the size for this first box is going to be 150 by default. So as you can see, no matter how much I resize this window, it is going to be 150 pixels. But as I get this window down, then it is going to shrink its size as per it is required, and is going to share the size among other boxes. So this is how you can set a base size of whatever you want. So if I set 350 pixels, then as you can see here, the base size of this first element is 350 pixels, and if I get it down, then it is going to resize. So this is how you can use this flex base property. Okay, now there is a shorthand property for defining all these properties, that is the flex grow, flex shrink, and then the last one that we saw, that is the flex base. So that property is flex, just flex, and you have to write it in the child class. So flex, then the first one that you have to define is the flex grow. So I'm going to set it to 1. Then there is flex shrink, again going to set it to 1, and then there is the flex base. So let's set it to 100 pixels and save it. And as you can see here, so this is what the output that we get here. So this is how you can set all these three properties in a single line using this shorthand flex property. Okay, so we had seen how we can align all these elements in a specific fashion, that is, if you want them in the start, or if you want them in end or in the center. But what if we want a single different element to be aligned in a particular way or particular fashion? Then you can do that using the align self property. So in this child one, I'm going to specify the align self, and I'm going to set it to flex start. Okay, now for this one, I'm going to set the align self to the end, let's say, and then for this I'm going to set the align self to center, and for this last one I'm going to set the align self to, let's say, stretch. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the way all the elements are aligned now. And let me just comment out this so that I can get the stretch. So this is how the elements are aligned. So every single element is aligned in whatever we have specified in the align self property. So for this first box we have the flex start, so it is starting from the left top side, and for this child 2 we have the flex end, so it is in the bottom, and then we have this third one which is in the center, and then we have this fourth child with the stretch value for the self align property. So this is how you can use the align self property to align each and every element in a specific position or in a specific way that you want. And then there is another one that is for the baseline. So this is how it works here. So yeah, this was the align self property. Okay, so now we have covered everything that was there in the CSS3 Flexbox layout module. So now that you know how to use the Flexbox, so now you can create different responsive websites and responsive designs using the Flexbox very easily. So that's it for this video, and if you like this video then click on that thumbs up button, and if you want to see more of these kind of videos then do subscribe to this channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. And I also have other web development and crash course videos, so do check those out as well. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.